Yep. Very good evening and welcome to this evening's Cabinet meeting on Tuesday the 17th of September. I'm going to start off with some housekeeping as we usually do. We are not expecting a fire alarm this evening, and should the alarm sound, please exit via the nearest exit and gather in the car park next to the library. Can I please ask if all mobile phones and electronic devices are now turned to silent? Please note that we will be using hybrid meeting arrangements with both officers and councillors who are not members of the Cabinet having the option to join the meeting via Zoom, and also live streaming this meeting via the Council's YouTube channel to encourage more people to engage in our public meetings. Please can I remind everybody to use their microphones when speaking and of course turn them off when finished. And finally, anyone attending the meeting remotely must use their raise hand function when they wish to speak and to declare any interest at the appropriate time. If anyone attending the meeting remotely loses connection, the meeting will continue and you will have the option to follow the meeting via the YouTube live stream. So, if we get underway with this evening's meeting, start off with apologies for absence.
Chairman, we have a physical room apology from Councillor Tyman. He has joined us virtually. Councillor Tyman is able to participate but not act in his capacity as a decision maker today. So Councillor Tyman will be unable to vote this afternoon, but he is able to participate.
Thank you very much indeed. Move on to disclosure of interests, and this is an opportunity for any member who may have a pecuniary or a non-pecuniary interest to declare that at this point. And there are no disclosures of interest made for this meeting. Delighted to tell you we have no urgent items this evening, and so we will move straight into the local transport plan 25 to 24, which is clearly an error and will be corrected by the portfolio holder when he speaks in just a moment. And this is for consultation. Councillor Billings.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, clearly it's the Devon and Torbay Local Transport Plan 2025 to 2040 on a consultation draft dated October 2024. So, what is a local transport plan? Well, it's a statutory document required under the Local Transport Act for requiring local transport authorities such as Torbay Council to produce. They set out the overarching ambitions for the local transport network with policies for the promotion of safe, integrated, efficient and economic transport alongside proposals for the implementation of these. And there is an understanding that these are often presented as separate documents, a strategy and an action plan. And that's what we have before us today. We have a clear vision for a place-based strategy for 2025 to 2040. The vision is that transport will facilitate sustainable growth and support reaching net zero carbon by 2050 at the latest, with well-integrated, accessible and inclusive transport that will improve travel choice and benefit the health and well-being of everyone. So alongside that vision, there are 6 key objectives, and if I just set these out, these are decarbonisation, which I've just referred to earlier, reaching net zero by 2050. They are reliable and resilient transport, which is enhancing the strategic road network and rail network that connects Devon to Torbay and beyond. They are easier travel, providing well-integrated, inclusive and reliable transport options. They are unlocking development to enable clean and sustainable growth. They are creating places for people by enhancing the attractiveness of our streets, by reducing negative impacts from vehicles, regenerating the public realm, and they are that the place should be naturally active. All of those are clearly ambitions that within Torbay we could really see how they would suit our local our local area and our community. So that's the transport plan, and I would therefore like to put that forward to the meeting, that we all support it and put it out to consultation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor. I understand that Councillor Lewis will be seconding this one this evening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and I'm delighted that we've been working together with Devon to produce this document. We've done that in the past. It's so important that we don't see Torbay as an island on its own. We are, although not as a local government, part of Devon, and that's working well together so that our residents can go to Devon and use transport, and they can come here to Torbay. So very happy to second this and for it to go out for consultation. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor. At which point, quite happy to open up this for any questions or debate. Councillor Long.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And I noted in the report that nearly a quarter of the population, 23%, that do not own a car. And so I was pleased to see that one of the aims of this plan is to improve well-being and social isolation. But I was disappointed, therefore, that there's no reference to extending bus service to areas that don't have a service at the moment, or extend service that have a poor bus service. Areas that I'm thinking of include parts of the Willows, where I get constant complaints about lack of bus services there as the Ward Council, and also parts of Heel, for example, Litchfield Avenue, Truro Avenue, where the bus service is very, very limited and where there's elderly population its area, and also that's a deprived area as well. And I know that my St Mary Church Ward Council colleagues would also have areas where bus service is not adequate. I do note that from one of the council officers that there's likely to be a bus service plan refresh in 2025, so it would have been quite good to have a more of a golden thread to try to improve bus services, so that those two documents can be linked together. So I'd argue for greater strength there, but perhaps that can come out in the consultation. I imagine that reference to active travel improvements might get a bit of a hollow laugh, given the harbour side lack of that. But on a positive note, it's good to see reference to improved bus links to Exeter Airport. One final question that I have on this item is how the council plans to reach out to deprived parts of the bay to ensure that we do get feedback from those deprived areas and the outskirts of Torbay as well. That would be useful to understand. Thank you.
Thank you indeed, Councillor Long. Councillor Bye.
Thank you so much indeed. And it really is actually to follow on to some extent with what Councillor Long has just said. But this is for consultation, isn't it? So if people want to make points, absolutely, make those points. This is for consultation. But at 1.8 in the introductory report, I've just thought it was really interesting to note that the authors have written that there are 4 place types identified, recognising the differing needs, transport experiences and environments across Devon and Torbay. There we go, right at the top, Torbay. Majority of travel starts and ends within Torbay. Seasonal fluctuations are significant. While many trips are over short distances, the majority are made by car. And then beneath that, Exeter, which is sort of going for growth and probably the most prosperous part of the southwest, going gangbusters, I would suggest, our largest single settlement with large catchment for work, education and retail. This is what really struck me. The majority of Exeter residents do not drive to work. So you've got quite a compact, although rapidly developing city, a very prosperous place, where somehow they've made that transition away from reliance on the car at least in terms of how they go to work, according to this report. So it's a bit like, how can we all be a bit more like Exeter? So very much on the same wavelength as Councillor Long with this. Also, following through from the council meeting last week, I would suggest there's a lot in here that those who've now come forward as a kind of cycling lobby, and actually welcome the cycling lobby. We've had lots of lobbies on transport issues over the years. We've had motorists, taxi drivers, bus passengers, and so on. I don't think we've ever had such a well-organised group of people coming forward and actually welcome that, advocating for cycling. There was a colleague, Councillor Dart, I thought was very, very good, Jack Dart. He was a very good advocate as a member for cycling. But there's a lot in here on active travel, which I think the people that attended the council meeting last week would be pleased to read. And I very much hope that they take part in the consultation and support this, because it is all good news for the Bay. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. I'm not seeing any other hands in the physical room or in the virtual room, so I will move across back to Councillor Billings.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councillor Long, you make a number of interesting points, and let me try and respond to those as follows. As a ward councillor representing your ward, I'd be delighted to hear from you in relation to specific points that you think we could enable constituents in your ward to participate and understand and respond to on this consultation, and that goes for all other councillors as well. So if you think sort of presenting at a community partnership meeting in your ward would be of assistance, I'd be delighted to come along with the team. In relation to the point that you make about bus travel, you're right, and alongside Devon, we want to do as much as we can to secure the requisite amount of funding from government so that we can provide bus services which largely relate to the level of subsidy we can offer. Recognising that most of them can't be justified on purely commercial grounds, but require a level of public subsidy. And I'd be delighted to work with you and recognising our two MPs are both Liberal Democrats to secure greater funding from government for that purpose. In relation to active travel, you'll have seen, as I will, in the report, that it's not just Councillor By, as you said, with Exeter, but it's also wider Devon. The propensity to use active travel is greater in rural Devon than it is in relatively urban Torbay. And clearly that's something that we need to tackle and that we should tackle. Now, on the whole, Torbay and indeed some parts of South Devon are more undulating, they're more hilly than Devon as a whole, perhaps. And therefore one might expect there to be more active travel mediums in areas like Exeter than they are in Torbay, built on 7 hills as we are. But recognising the developments in modern technology, electric bikes, etc., that allows most of those historic impediments to be overcome. And therefore I think it's really positive that we've got this opportunity to consult with these active travel groups like those wanting to cycle to really make the most of these opportunities. I spoke at the last council meeting about how I look forward to being able to announce improvements to specific cycling routes around the Bay in due course in a future council meeting. I look forward to be able to doing that and also take any suggestions in the way that we can improve this plan. So therefore, Mr. Chairman, just going back to the recommendation, the proposed decision, that my proposal is that Cabinet approve the local transport plan and consultation jointly with Devon County Council, and that the Director of Pride in Place be given delegated authority in consultation with the Cabinet Member for Pride in Place, Transport and Parking, I myself, to approve minor editing alterations to the local transport plan alongside ahead of the consultation and produce the appropriate supporting documents accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor. So the recommendation has been made, proposed and seconded. Therefore, I move to the vote. All those in favour, please indicate.
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much. Item 6 on this evening's Cabinet meeting is for support services for homeless adults in temporary accommodation. And this is something that Councillor Tyman has been leading on successfully. However, because he's not in the room, I am happy to propose from the chair. Then we'll go to the seconder, and then I will invite Councillor Tyman to provide some further detail before we open up for questions. So what this is all about, basically, is just talk about our current position at the moment. So our current temporary accommodation model in Torbay is based around a dispersed units of accommodation without support. However, it has become clear that for a cohort of people with additional needs, a more interventionalist approach is required. So currently the council provides bed and breakfast accommodation with no cooking facilities or support for single adults where it is deemed that we have a legal duty under the homeless legislation. And of these, approximately 20% will have ill health needs and or mental health requirements. And 17% of them also have needs associated with older age. So this proposal seeks to support the increasing number of elderly people that are becoming homeless, or those that support needs related to mental health or ill health. And we have spent quite a number of occasions talking about the current housing situation and why we are seeing more and more people and that dynamics of that rented accommodation changing within the country, to be honest. This proposal also aims to deliver a better service to meet people's needs and therefore also prevent repeat homelessness. And this project would also form a key deliverable in the draft homelessness and rough sleeper strategy, where a clear need has already been evidenced for accommodation with support. So the final piece for me really is to place the recommendation on the table, and that is for this authority be delegated to the Director of Adult and Community Services in consultation with the Director of Finance and Cabinet Member for Adult and Community Services toward a contract for a building-based housing-related support service for homeless adults in temporary accommodation. And at this point, I will move across to Councillor Tranter, who I understand will be seconding this motion.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I know Councillor Tyman is going to go into some more detail on this, but I think this is a really great opportunity for Torbay. So I'll pass it over to him. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. So we invite Councillor Tyman, who this evening is joining us remotely. Thank you very much for joining us remotely, Councillor. We'll hand over to you to provide some more information.
Thank you, Chair. Can everyone hear me all right?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. And I'm sorry not to be there in person, but I think some of you might be grateful that I'm not there, spreading around some germs. Seem to have come down with a heavy cold. And I think, if I can say on this, that I think you've done an excellent job, Chair, in explaining this. And that leaves me probably quite a small amount I want to add. But I think there's a couple of things that are important to understand. And the first is what this is, what the sort of people this is helping, and the sort of people that it is not designed to help needs to be made clear. You've explained who it is helping, and I think it's important to say that we are not here looking to help people who have substance misuse, taking drugs, or coming off taking drugs, and we are not, through this facility, aiming to help those who are rough sleeping. There are other initiatives looking after and providing services to those people. This facility will be solely for people who are have needs. They will often be elderly. They will often have mental health problems. They need an element of care, but in fact they need to be in a calm environment so that that need can be supplied and to help fit them for a move out of this facility to more permanent accommodation. So I think it's unfortunate that an article has gone out that actually explained what we were doing here very well, but with a picture of people rough sleeping. This is not there, not for that. This is really to replace people or replace the bed and breakfast accommodation, which is actually not well suited for this cohort of individuals. They need a better environment, they need support, they need often to be giving each other support, and they need support from an organisation who is going to provide that with 24/7 remote support and specific work tailored to each individual. And I think that's all I need to add, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor. And at that point, I'm quite happy to open up to questions or comments. Councillor Bye.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I'm absolutely delighted to support this. It's the administration working to support people, some of the most vulnerable, with their needs for accommodation. So it is a really worthwhile initiative, and working in partnership with an organisation, which we mustn't mention, who are specialists, but potentially not only we are doing the very best for this group of people, providing them with better accommodation and their support, but if you look at 3.3, there is a possibility that the council will make a saving, because we will be saving money that would otherwise have been spent on bed and breakfast kind of temporary accommodation. So we're saving money, we're working with specialists, doing the best we can, and this for a most vulnerable group of people. So it's a great project, and I hope it gets unanimous support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Long.
I just thought I'd join the discussion just to be supportive of this item, and I think the key thing is that this replaces bed and breakfast accommodation. As the report highlights, the people will be very often on their own in B&B accommodation, and the lack of cooking facilities actually is rather important. I've just been dealing with some casework from someone who was in temporary accommodation and in bed and breakfast, and the resulting poor diet was affecting his mental health, which nearly put him on a spiral to make things worse. So I think actually that this accommodation will help people stabilise and then move on to more permanent accommodation. And of course what we do need is much more affordable housing in Torbay, but I won't go down that route because that might lead to an area where we might disagree, but very supportive of this item. The one area that I was slightly worried about when it came to council leadership group was that I understand the operator is a faith-based operator, but I have received assurances that the faith element will not form any part of the care or support that's being provided. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor. Any further questions or any comments? In which case, we'll move back to myself. Thank you very much for your support. Fantastic. And I think this is another great news story for individuals, and particularly elderly individuals who will not have to go through that bed and breakfast option, to try to give them a better temporary accommodation solution before we're able to move on to more permanent accommodation. So at that point, I will move to the vote. All those in favour, please indicate.
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much. Brings us on to item 7 which is our final item on this evening's Cabinet agenda, and that goes across to the Adult Social Care agenda, and we're talking now about the Annual Local Account Summary 23-24. Councillor Tranter.
Thank you, Chair. So every year we produce an annual report from the previous year called the Local Account. This informs residents about the achievements, challenges and priorities for adults in social care and the impact that these have on people's lives. The Local Account sets out how well we are doing at meeting the needs of residents who require care and support. The Local Account for 23-24 aims to talk about adult social care activity through the voice of people who draw on care and support. Key highlights that I'd like to draw your attention to are the success of our collaborative partnerships, including with the voluntary sector, that have allowed us to provide person-centred integrated care, ensuring people are heard and only need to share their story once, and also how we have built on our co-production offer to include the Learning Disability Ambassadors who have engaged in developing the big plan to improve community support and promote independence. Also, the Autism Partnership Ambassadors have been actively involved and collaborating to address social issues such as employment-related reasonable adjustments, minimising social inclusion and developing neurodiversity awareness. As we are aware, the carer population in Torbay is extremely high. We remain committed to supporting carers and continue to be on target with carers assessments and health and wellbeing checks. Development of the Carers Strategy 24-27 is underway utilising co-production methodology. So today I'm asking for Cabinet to approve this report to enable the annual local account summary to be published in accordance with government requirements. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Second, Councillor Bye.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm absolutely delighted to support this, and well done to Councillor Tranter for outlining in a nutshell what this report is all about. It's really what Torbay does best, and it's working in partnership and doing things differently. When we study what's going on at Westminster with the new government and some of their ideas of what should be done, a lot of those ideas are here, things that we are doing on the ground in Torbay with integrated health and social care, with very strong relationships with the voluntary and community sector, absolutely support for special groups. We're doing it. We are trailblazers. So what works in Torbay, which we've been doing for 20 years in terms of integrated health and social care, hopefully one day I'll live long enough to see a national model on the same based on the same principles. So I think we should be proud of what we do, and I want to say thank you to all those who are involved. I think the stories, it's all about people, isn't it? And there are individual stories of how people have been supported with the good work that we are doing, and they're highlighted in this report, which makes it a very human kind of report. So particularly pleased with all the coverage there of the carers. And I'm particularly pleased to hear Councillor Tranter highlighting something that impressed me there, support being given to those with autism, making a huge, huge difference in their lives. So this is something we can all be proud of as we go forward with our new 5-year contract with the Integrated Care Board. So we've now got confident that we're doing it right, and we'll be doing it right and improving always the next 5 years. I think there are one or two things I think we need to work on. That's on the personal payments, isn't it? We've got to kind of boost those who can live more independently by making their own arrangements through personal payments. And I saw that there was have been an increase in admissions to nursing and residential. The more we can support people to be in their own homes, that is the best. I think that's how we would all wish to be until there is no other alternative. So there are still things to improve, there's still things to work on, but it's very, very positive. Thank you again to colleagues that have been involved with this. I hope it gets support, but I hope it gets celebration. You sometimes think, people think, oh, Torbay Council, it's all the weeds, and if it's not the weeds, they're digging up the roads. But this is what matters to people. These are the people's services, and we can hold our heads up high. We do this very well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor. Move on to questions, comments or debate. Councillor Long.
I'll try not to be distracted by Councillor By, who always brings out the worst in me, but he wasn't arguing in favour of integration at the time, if I remember, but I'll leave that for another day. This report is excellent, but the one thing I just wanted to highlight, I think it's on page 253 on World Social Work Day, I think it is. I can't read my own writing, but there was a presentation by the Intercom Trust to highlight challenges faced by LGBTQ plus people. And I know this is probably something that's likely to appear in next year's annual report. And I was just wondering if either Councillor Tranter or Joe Williams could highlight the excellent work the Council's doing with the Intercom Trust in the care world.
Thank you, Councillor. Will any further questions from anybody? Councillor By.
Am I allowed to respond?
Of course.
Because this is something that's brought up quite regularly. I mean, it was 20 years ago. I remember when the then chief executive came forward to a council meeting at Oldway, and goodness, we used to have those meetings in the splendid ballroom at Oldway. And I don't think at that stage I voted for the initial care trust coming together. I don't think I voted against. And I do remember expressing my reservations about accountabilities at that time, because like all these partnership organisations, you're passing over the responsibility for day-to-day running to another organisation, but you are still accountable. So that's what troubled me to some extent at that time. Then shortly after that, along came whatever the inspecting body was and said Torbay on adult social care, or again whatever it used to be called, because these terms keep changing, we were rated as rubbish. We were told, we really weren't doing very well. So we were rated at the time poorly on children's, we were rated poorly on adults, we were rated poorly on housing. And it was at that time that I was elected as mayor. So if we're told we're rubbish, you've got to start doing things differently. And I was absolutely persuaded of the wisdom of working in partnership with health to deliver social care. And I was very, very proud to sign that agreement in November 2005, almost 20 years ago, and very, very proud of having input into the working together with health and social care during my term as elected mayor. Very, very proud of that, as I have been of the other regeneration and other projects. So absolutely, I questioned the accountabilities right at the early stage, but I signed up to it because we then had to do things differently to improve our ratings, and we have improved our ratings, and we're doing the best for the people of Torbay. So can we move on from a debate of 20 years ago? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And the most important thing is those outcomes for our residents. And we know from those conversations that we have on the doorsteps that the experience that residents have through the adult social care side of things, we're doing exceptionally well. And it is still very surprising that other parts of the UK have not yet got on board this particular model. It's not easy. Relationships quite often are troublesome. Things get in the way, and you have to keep working at them all the time, because surprisingly or not surprisingly, things don't always go the way that you want them to go. But we have stood the test of time. We've got a good partnership, and that comes forward in the report this evening. Councillor Tranter, anything further to add?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Councillor Swithin Long. After attending the previous social work day event and celebrations at the Riviera Centre, I know that we do work very closely with the Intercom Trust, and I know that we have commissioned them to do a survey with the Torbay LGBTQ plus community. with regards to adult social care and how they feel about the services that we provide and how we can work better with that community. So they'll feed back to us, and then we'll implement that, their research back into all of our plans within adult social care.
Thank you very much indeed. And I think at that point we shall move to the vote. All those in favour, please indicate.
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. And at 18:05, this meeting is closed. Thank you very much indeed. Have a pleasant evening, everybody.